Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that's absolutely crucial for any U.S. investor with an eye on Japan: how you can navigate their dividend taxes.
So, you're investing in Japan, and you're getting dividends from a great company. That's fantastic news. But you might be in for a little surprise, a bit of a shock really, when you see how much tax is taken out right at the start.
And that shock? It comes in the form of this number: 20.42%. That's Japan's default tax rate on dividends paid to non-residents. I mean, that is a huge bite out of your returns before you even see a single penny. But, and this is a big but, don't panic. There is a path to a much, much lower rate. So today, we're going to walk you through it. We'll start with that default rule, then reveal a powerful super rule that totally changes the game. We'll show you how to unlock those lower rates, point out the exceptions to watch for, cover how to play by the rules, and wrap up with a single most important takeaway. Okay, let's get right into it. First up, we have to understand Japan's standard domestic tax law. The best way to think about this is like it's the retail price of tax, the sticker price that applies to everyone right off the bat. So, how do they collect it? Well, Japan uses a system called a withholding tax. It's actually pretty simple. The company that's paying you the dividend is required to withhold that tax and send it straight to the Japanese government. So it's all paid up before that money ever even gets to your account. And that kind of strange 20.42% number, it breaks down like this. There's a 20% standard rate plus a special 2.1% surtax on top. That total is what's applied to dividends going to foreign corporations and pretty much all individual investors by default. All right, now for the good part. There is a special agreement out there that can actually override Japan's domestic law. Seriously, it's like a super rule that exists just for U.S. residents. This is how you get your membership discount. And this super rule is, of course, the Japan-U.S. tax treaty. The entire reason it exists is to prevent investors like you from getting taxed twice, once in Japan and then again in the US. It's designed to encourage investment by offering way, way lower rates. So, here's the most important point. You are not stuck with that high retail price of 20.42%. If you can just prove you're an eligible member, you can get a much better deal. So the big question is, just how much better is this deal? How low can these tax rates actually go? Let's take a look. For most of you out there, the individual U.S. investors who are the true owners of the dividend, boom, the treaty cuts that rate by more than half, dropping it all the way down to just 10%. Oh, but it gets even better. If you're a U.S. company and you own at least 10% of the voting stock in the Japanese company, that rate gets cut in half again, down to only 5%. And in some very specific cases, like for qualified U.S. pension funds or a U.S. company that owns a majority stake, the withholding tax is completely eliminated. That's right, it goes down to zero. This table here just lays it all out so clearly. You can see the different tiers. You've got the general 10% rate for most people, the 5% rate for bigger corporate owners, and even that amazing 0% rate for pension funds and majority owners. It all depends on who you are and how much you own. When you actually see it laid out in a chart like this, the difference is just staggering. The gap between that default domestic rate and what the treaty offers is, well, it's massive. It's really night and day. Okay, but before we get too carried away, we have to talk about the exceptions. And this is critical. These amazing treaty benefits don't apply to everyone in every situation, especially if you have a business presence on the ground in Japan. This is all about a concept called a permanent establishment, or just PE for short. So what is that? Well, to put it simply, it just means you have a real fixed place of business inside Japan. We're talking an office, a branch, a factory, that kind of thing. So here's how the exception works. If you have a PE in Japan and your stock investment is effectively connected to that business, then those low treaty dividend rates just don't apply. Instead, those dividends get treated like any other business profit and they get taxed at Japan's regular corporate rates. Now, another really key thing to remember is that these treaty benefits are not automatic. You can't just sit back and expect them to happen. You have to actively claim them, and you have to prove you're the person they were intended for, not someone just trying to game the system. One of the biggest rules revolves around being the beneficial owner. What does that mean? It means you have to be the real ultimate owner of the money, the one who actually gets to enjoy the economic benefits. You can't just be an agent or a nominee or some shell company set up to funnel money for someone else.
And it's not just that. There are other rules too, all designed to prevent what's called treaty shopping. For instance, there's a limitation on benefits clause that says a U.S. company needs to have a real business connection to the U.S. All of these rules are just there to make sure only legitimate U.S. residents get to enjoy the benefits.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. After all that, what is the single most important thing you should walk away with from this explainer? It all boils down to this. This slide really says it all. If you don't proactively use the treaty, your dividend gets hit with that huge 20.42% tax. But if you do use the treaty, that tax drops to 10%, 5%, or maybe even 0. If you fail to use it, you're just leaving a huge chunk of your own money on the table.
At the end of the day, the Japan-US tax treaty is an incredibly powerful tool for investors. It can give a serious boost to your returns, but its benefits are only there for those who take the time to understand the rules and follow them. So are these treaties a vital tool, or just a complex web of rules? Well, the answer is probably a little bit of both.